Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and today guys, what we are doing is we are talking about some amazing festive books, some disappointment, some shifting of the TBR, and all of that. Before we get into that, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow. You can check the description box down below for links to all my social media, including the Discord and the Patreon. With that out of the way guys, it has been an interesting reading month so far. I'm going to tell you straight up, Wind and Truth kind of kicked Midnight Tides off of my reading plans. For some reason, like, my brain forgot that Wind and Truth was coming out. And so then, of course, like, Midnight Tides just got shoved to the side. And so this is no longer on my reading plans, which means I don't know when I'm coming back to Malazan, but hopefully it's soon. So I just kind of wanted to address the obvious of like, hey, aren't you going to read Midnight Tides? Well, I want to. And I still might, because Wind and Truth didn't really go according to plan. Now, if you kind of hear me all nasally and you might see the video jump a little bit, it's because I'm rocking a fantastic head cold that was kindly gifted to me by my children. But that out of the way, Wind and Truth, I got about 30 chapters into it, and there was one of those chapters that I really particularly enjoyed. The humor is just not working for me. A lot of the focuses of the story seem to be just kind of more introspection, kind of internal monologue with the characters than dealing with the events that happened at the end of Rhythm of War. Like, I personally wasn't feeling a sense of urgency, at least in the first 30 chapters of this book. And so it's kind of been put down as well. I feel like I'm coming at you guys with nothing but bad news. But let me tell you about two amazing festive books that I did finish. I finished, I believe it's Past 3 O'Clock by Richie Joyce. And I came across this by just scrolling Instagram. Christopher Tester is the narrator, and I follow him on Instagram. I love his Warhammer 40k speeches that he does on his Instagram page. It's just fantastic stuff. And I came across this reading that he had done for Past 3 O'Clock. And it's this kind of Dickensian ghost story. Not in the same vein as Christmas Carol, because this is truly a ghost story. Our main character doesn't make it past the first 3 chapters, and then it's kind of dealing with the themes of acceptance and processing of grief and just kind of unfinished business. I loved this story. It's really short. It's about 4 to 5 hours on audio, and Christopher Tester does an amazing job. Please do yourself a favor and check this out. I will have it linked in the description box down below. You should also check out Murder on the North Pole Express. This is by Patricia Meredith. This is the Sam Shovel Mysteries number dose. And I picked this one up just quite randomly. I was like, I feel like Patricia told me that this was coming out. And sure enough, it was out, and I had access to the audiobook, which is narrated by Andrew D. Meredith, Patricia's husband, and author of the Collation Saga, and Needle and Leaf. And so I really, really enjoyed this. I feel like the ending of this book was a bit kind of clunky, but frankly, like, between the Christmas recipes, the holiday lore, the sheer amount of lore that Patricia Meredith has packed into not only the first book, Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman, but also into book number 2, Murder on the North Pole Express. Like, there's just so much Christmas lore out there that we don't really think about in our daily lives. It is fantastic. I had a lot of fun reading it, and I read it in a single sitting, listening to Andrew's narration. Whether or not you want to argue if audiobooks are reading, well, fight me in the comments. I don't know. Well, we'll have a good time. And then I'm reading what probably is going to crack my top 10 of the year. In fact, I've read 2 books that are probably going to make it into my top 10. And that is one that's definitely making it into my top 10 is The Tomb. This is in contention for Book of the Year. This is F. Paul Wilson's Repairman Jack number 1 or Adversary Cycle number 2. And I'm going to be reading both of those series. I want to read the Adversary Cycle, and I want to read Repairman Jack. Repairman Jack is just an every kind of day guy, except for the fact that, like, he doesn't technically exist according to documentation. Like, he's erased his identity. He doesn't have a bank account. He doesn't have a social security. And he works as a fixer for the people who can afford his services. And he stumbles into something a bit supernatural. And how he kind of deals with that and the ramifications it has on his own personal life. Fantastic stuff. Very reminiscent of Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child's Relic and Reliquary, which I loved as a teenager, and this just took me right back there, and I absolutely loved this story. Very, very, very good. And then the one that I'm currently reading that also is probably going to crack my top 10 is an arc of a book that doesn't even release till May of 2025. This is Discovery by J.A.J. Minton. This is John Minton from Talking Story, as well as his wife and his son Jacob. They are an author-writing team. They wrote this book as kind of a family project, and it's fantastic. I am 6 chapters in, 20% in currently at this point in time. It's pulse-pounding, it's gripping, it's everything that I love. Like, I don't want to give you too many details, but it is cosmic horror. It's got some found footage elements, and it's just blended beautifully with excellent pacing, and I am just glued to my Kindle as I'm reading this e-arc, in love with this story. I cannot wait for you guys to get your hands on this. So far, it has been a truly 5-star experience. Fantastic. So that's one of the ones that I'm currently reading. I would have put up cover art, but I currently don't have access to cover art, so I don't know what the cover looks like, but I can only imagine that it's going to be amazing, because this story is something that is truly, truly special. So thank you to John from Talking Story and family for allowing me to have access to an early release. I'm having such a great time with it. And then I have finished, finally, after 9 months, Janny Wirt's To Ride Hell's Chasm. And let me tell you what, I have a mixed reading experience with this book, because there are certain elements that I really struggle with in the first 40%. There's certain decisions that are made that I don't still really understand. I'm not in love with the magic system, but let me tell you what, in terms of closing final chapters, I had shivers the entire final chapter of this book, and I can see why people love this story so incredibly much. It's a wonderful standalone. Mikhail is a fantastic and compelling character, paired with the princess, whose name is currently escaping me because I'm hopped up on cold medicine. She's a very dynamic and interesting character. If you love horses, you're going to really enjoy this. You can kind of see the horses showcased here on the back of the book. Fantastic story. I gave this one 4 stars. For me personally, I just felt that even though I enjoyed the last 50 to 60% incredibly much, or a whole lot, I don't know how language works, I really, really, really enjoyed it. But that first 30 to 40% for me was just incredibly rough. But overall, very, very good story, and a strong standalone, and a good lead-in to Wars of Light and Shadow in 2025. So that's kind of where I stand with To Ride Hell's Chasm. Okay, moving on. What have I talked about? What haven't I talked about? Okay, I've saved this for now. Mainly, let's say I'm burying it in the video. If you've made it this far, please let me know your thoughts on what I'm about to say. I told you guys on my TBR I was going to be doing the Advent of Winter short story collection that was put out by Dominish Books, and it's got so many amazing indie authors. I have a bone to pick with this collection. Mainly because it's got this kind of white and light blue, these light blue edges. The boards are really white with this nice ice blue, and it's named Advent. Now, my issue with this story is only a single prompt was given to the authors. A single requirement is it has to be winter-based. I'm going to say 90% of the authors took that and decided to write grimdark. And I have issue with that, because if you're going to call something Advent of Winter, an Advent calendar is something that leads up to Christmas. Why would I want grimdark for that? That doesn't make sense to me personally as a reader, and I found it very off-putting. I waited a year for what I thought were going to be Christmas-related or winter sprite, lighter tone stories, and instead I get smacked across the face with absolute darkness. Now, I am not saying that these stories are bad. In fact, all of the stories that I got through were fantastic. The stories are great. I just don't think that the presentation of the outside of the book and the boards and everything in the title matches with the interior of the stories. They're all so dark and so depressing. Some of them have glimmers of hope in them, but I would not call this Advent of anything. I would have named this something else, and probably, it feels like the outside of the book was designed before the stories were received, and then we've got kind of a light, bright sort of advertising with just black icy depressingness on the inside. And for that reason, I've decided to put it down. I'm not currently going to read this as an advent of anything. I will read it later as a grimdark short story collection, and that will have to do. That's my rant over. I'm not saying the stories aren't good. The stories are fantastic. Just as a package, it doesn't work for me. And that's just me being incredibly blunt. Patient Zero. I am like an hour away from finishing Patient Zero by Jonathan Mayberry. I just picked this up because of Wind and Truth. Like, it just wasn't working for me, so I bounced all over the place, and I landed here. This is Joe Ledger, #1. And this is the dude bro of dude bros style of writing. It's all very machismo. It's all special forces, military, swearing, with zombies. That's the best way I can kind of sell this. It's not bad. It's actually really good. But in terms of my tastes, I would give this a 7 out of 10. I'll give it a B rating. It's really good, but at the same time, like, I guess I wasn't expecting the hoorah of it all, despite the fact that I probably should have. It's still really good. I struggle with the antagonists in this book. It's not really my favorite thing, especially because it's like, oh, Middle Eastern terrorists. And now, granted, I know this book was written in 2009. But at the same time, like, it's just like, oh, okay, we're doing that. And then, like, it's like Middle Eastern terrorists not really thinking things through. And it's just like, oh, billionaire corruption. Oh, yeah. Like, the themes just kind of aren't landing well for me. And especially because it's just like, we're doing something. Like, if zombies didn't exist within the zeitgeist of this world, like, it's in the pop culture. Zombie is a word that exists. And we still do the thing. It's just kind of dumb. So, as entertaining as this is, I still have some kind of, like, structural problems with it. But not structural. Like, the lore just doesn't seem to quite work for me. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. But, yeah, I have some issues with this one. And then, finally, I read Stephen King's Just After Midnight. I said I was going to either do Nightmares and Dreamscapes, or that I was going to be doing The Outsider. I ended up doing Just After Sunset instead. One of my patrons, Jake, the Bookish Drummer, who has a fantastic channel with tons of Stephen King. We both love King. And I was like, you know what? Like, which one should I pick? And he was just like, you should actually do this. Oh, man, look how cool and holographic. Sorry, my ADD is just straight up kicking in, and I'm obsessed with the holographic of this. Despite the fact that it looks terrible, because the holographic splits down here, and then kind of resets. Anyway, this is a great... I completely got off on a tangent right there. This is a great, great collection of Stephen King short stories. And, like, I read the foreword. I loved the foreword. I don't think there's a story in here I didn't like. I would give this about a 4.5 to a 5. Nothing that jumps out as that's going to be super memorable, but during in the moment when I'm reading it, I was hooked. I was glued. I loved each story as I was reading it, but it did flow out of my head, just kind of like water. Like, I remember maybe 2 of the stories. Willow was good. Gingerbread Girl was really good. Oh, Gingerbread Girl was actually really, really good. Okay, see, now that I've got, like, the titles in front of me, I retract everything I just said. Rest Stop was really good. Stationary Bike was a bit weird. Graduation Afternoon was too short. In and The Cat from Hell were really good. It was funny, I was reading The Cat from Hell, and I was just like, this seems really familiar. And then there was a movie called Tales from the Dark that reminded me, oh, that's where I've seen it. It's a really old movie that nobody ever really talks about. And Cat from Hell had been adapted into it, and I had seen that. But yes, this is a great kind of King collection. Man, look at that. Sorry, that holograph is just hypnotizing. I need to put it down. And then, basically, my next read is going to be Bernard Cornwell's The Last Kingdom, F. Paul Wilson's Black Wind. I'm buddy reading this with Owen Edwards. I want to read Black Wind because John from Talking Story has been talking about this fairly recently. He just held a signed copy, and he's mentioned it a couple other times, and I really wanted to kind of check this one out. And I also want to check out Richard Kadri's Aloha from Hell. Now, with Aloha from Hell, this is going to be the book that decides whether or not I continue Sandman Slim, because Kill the Dead, I did not like that book. I did like Sandman Slim. I didn't like Kill the Dead. So the series kind of rests on Aloha from Hell. If I don't particularly love this novel, I will probably be DNFing the series. And then that's kind of my reading plans for the rest of the month. I might pick back up Wind in Truth. I plan on finishing Discovery by A.J. Minton. Loving that. But let me know how your month has been going so far. I hope it's been going well. I hope you're staying healthy, because I'm sure as heck not. Until next time, guys. Peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my passion and my hobby. It means the world to me.